Children are exposed to dangerous toxins in their food, water, and in the air, including EMFs. How can you minimize this toxic burden and help your children stay healthy? You're listening to the 2025 EMF Hazard Summit. My name is Nick, the EMF guy Pinot, and this is the EMF Hazard Summit, Protect Your Children. In this interview recorded in person at the Deeper Healing Clinic in South Carolina, Dr. Michael Bauerschmidt revealed 5 different categories of toxins and toxicants that every parent should know about. He also reveals what he considers the number 1 most important detoxification strategy for kids and adults alike. Dr. Bauerschmidt is the founder and medical director of Deeper Healing Medical Wellness Center, where people travel in from all around the country to receive unique, cutting-edge treatments. He is a key opinion leader in functional and environmental medicine and recognized nationally as an expert in the treatment of complex diseases. I'm here with Dr. Bauerschmidt, who's an environmental medicine doctor. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
So what is environmental medicine?
Environmental medicine is kind of a new branch. It's not recognized by the postgraduate medical education group yet.
Yeah.
But we deal primarily with finding the reasons that people are sick. And so many of those reasons now involve around the food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe.
Yes, I know there are many things that we are now exposed to. It's not just EMFs, electropollution. I talk about that plenty, but there are other things that appear in our food, in the air, in the water that are our children, our teenagers, and us that we're taking in. So what are some of the most common toxicants that we might be exposed to these days?
Well, it's interesting you use the word toxicants because there is a difference between toxins and toxicants, and we need to have that established because often there's a crossover. Toxins are specifically those things made by biological organisms, so snake venom, spider bites, mold toxins. These are clearly poisons that are generated by living creatures. Mm-hmm. Toxicants is anything man-made.
Okay.
So in that realm, we basically have 5 general categories of toxins/toxicants. The first one, the metals, go back to the Bronze Age when man first started hammering around and playing with these things. Then chemicals came into play beginning in 1954 when DuPont introduced this thing called Teflon. And ever since then, it's been better living through chemistry.
Yeah.
Then we got into, when the OPEC oil crisis occurred in the 70s, we got into these really tight building codes, and we got to seal up things to conserve energy. And that created indoor air pollution that was on top of outdoor air pollution, just from car exhaust and particulate matter and it's fires and volcanoes and all this other stuff. Then came along, and then along with that, those tight buildings came along this thing called mold. And because, mold grows, people say, oh, mold's not a problem, it's everywhere. Well, yes, mold is everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it is nature's garbage can. It's our cleanup crew. And there are certain molds that inhabit the indoor airspace that do create toxins that are very harmful to human beings. Not all molds, any mold will create a toxin. Not all mold toxins harm humans. In fact, there's a couple we rely on, like penicillin.
Yeah,
it's a mold toxin.
Pretty useful.
There's another one that is used to help prevent organ rejection after transplant. It's a mold toxin. But there are other ones that do create problems and disrupt our immune system, our hormone system, our nervous system, and these are a problem. Then we also, so we've got the metals, we've got the chemicals, we've got the indoor-outdoor air pollution, we have the molds, and we have EMFs. Collectively, 25%, according to Lancet, 25% of worldwide deaths are directly attributable to pollution. They're caused by pollution, not, oh, I happen to live in a dirty area and that didn't help me, but actually caused by pollution. And that's the area that environmental medicine focuses on, is how can we reduce that total body burden to help your body function better? You mentioned something about what's the worst one. It's like, you're asking me which straw broke your camel's back. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about total body burden. I think this is an interesting angle here because a lot of parents hear about toxins and toxicants, and you tell them, look, your kids are getting poisoned, and they become overwhelmed by the situation, right? There are so many plastics and things that, I don't know, emanate from my new carpet and mold and EMFs. Where should they start about starting to, how should they go about reducing the total body burden of their kids?
Okay. Well, the number one job, I remember Dr. Walter Kenyon, who taught me environmental medicine, his saying the 3 treatments for environmental injury are avoidance, avoidance, avoidance.
Okay. There you go.
And you have to have clean air, clean food, clean water. Well, how do you do that? Well, in today's world, it's more difficult, but let's start just with clean food. If you can buy organic food, if you can buy fresh whole foods, fresh foods that are locally grown as opposed to transported in, you're going to improve nutrient density, you're going to decrease the potential for contamination from pesticides, insecticides, et cetera. There is a little trick you can do to help reduce the exposure from pesticides and insecticides and fungicides, and that is to get a little ozone generator for food. Okay. And you fill your sink with water, you throw your fruits and vegetables in there, you drop the ozone generator in, you run it for 4 to 6 minutes, and you're going to destroy virtually 100% of any topically applied toxicant.
Okay.
Now, there are certain things like strawberries and grapes and cherries that are systemically treated, and those, you want to buy those organic or just don't eat them.
Yeah, okay.
But by and large, for a lot of the other fruits and vegetables, it's very helpful. And you also are destroying the viruses and the bacteria and the fungi that have already established the colonies on those foods, and they'll last longer in your refrigerator.
Okay. So would you recommend doing that on any produce?
Even the organic stuff.
Even the organic, yeah. That was my question.
I went to Whole Foods and I got I call it whole paycheck. I got the fresh kale and I did the thing and I put it in the refrigerator and I forgot it was there.
Yeah.
And 6 days later I went, oh, the kale. And I dug it out, and it still looked like I'd bought it the day before. So I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
So it can actually save on the budget. And by the way, anything I say about these items, air filters, water filters, whatever, we have a website, deeperhealing.com.
Yep.
Go on there. We will give you how to survive in a toxic world book. Have suggestions about all this stuff in it. So if you don't catch it as I'm spitting it out, you got a resource to get to it.
Perfect.
Clean air. Indoor air pollution is far worse than outdoor air pollution because we don't turn the air over often enough. And we get this buildup, and dust particles collect, and dust is like, you consider dust to be the Uber that carries the toxin from its living into its new workplace in your body.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you decrease the dust? Well, you get yourself a good MERV or pleated air filter, MERV air filter or pleated, somewhere in the 10 to 12 range. I got to tell us on me. I decided I was going to go out and get the best MERV filter, and I got like a MERV 16 and put it into my unit, and I froze my air conditioner.
Because it's filtering
because it wasn't
too much?
filtering. It wasn't enough airflow to get through the filter.
Okay.
So be sure that you check with your HVAC people before you get carried away.
I understand.
Like I did. Otherwise, it's about a $600-700 fix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So clean air filter, air filter for the HVAC system. Get your air ducts cleaned out, every year or so. Just get rid of the dust that's collected in there. And then lastly, the big thing is invest in a room air purifier, something that has a HEPA filter, preferably also with a VOC filter if you're chemically sensitive. Mm-hmm. Should I go into chemical sensitive real quick?
Sure.
Okay. Chemically sensitive is if you're a person that can't walk down the soap aisle at the grocery store or past the perfume counter at the department store or the candle store without feeling headachy or nauseated or just like, I got to get out of here. That is chemical sensitivity. Your body has totally overwhelmed and it's telling you, get out of here or something bad's going to happen. Or it will give you reason to leave.
Yeah.
Okay. Those folks are you really have to pay attention to what I'm saying about avoidance.
Are there children or teenagers that you see are chemically sensitive?
Absolutely. I had patients here, they come in and they didn't even realize it was a problem. And they said, yeah, I remember I was 6 years old. I couldn't stand to be around grandma's perfume.
Okay. That's a good indication.
Yeah. So if you're chemically sensitive, you have a huge problem.
Yeah.
And it's not a question of if you're going to break, it's when. And most often, by the time you hit chemical sensitivity, you're already broken in ways that you even don't realize are associated.
Okay.
Which is the other thing with environmental medicine, why it's important to really pay attention here, because there is, in our traditional pattern of medicine, you go to the doctor and we give you a diagnosis and then write you a prescription. Well, around here we have two rules. The diagnosis is not the disease, and it's always about everything. So even though there is a straw that breaks your camel's back,
yeah,
your camel would have been perfectly fine had it not been all the straw he was already carrying. And that's the tie-in to environmental medicines, because people don't realize the total cumulative effect, that total body burden, and how it affects their health until they break.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to blame.
100%.
And this is why it's this. I have this mystery illness. No mystery to me.
Yeah.
All you got to do is sit around and talk and say, where did you grow up and what did you eat and how did I lived on a farm and they were spraying, or I lived in New York City and grew up there and lived in high-rise apartment buildings that were full of mold, and they don't know.
Yeah. And most of them probably didn't have, going back to the air filtration you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I talk to people who first clean up their AC or HVAC system at all. So when you go there, I rent Airbnbs when I travel around the world. And the first thing I look at is the AC, and they don't touch it. No one takes care of basic steps to remove dust. So one reason I started to vacuum more often is that I started to consume environmental medicine, information. And I said, oh, there's actually a reason for me to do this chore that I dislike. But now I understand that it's making my family healthier when I do it. Yeah. So that's an example of cleaning the air, is also, I guess, making sure that you remove the dust from your household frequently.
And that's it. And when you're choosing an air filter, also is like, how big, what one do I need? How big does it need to be?
Yeah.
Well, you need to be able to turn over the air in your room 3 times an hour.
Okay.
So say you have a 10 by 10 room with a 10-foot ceiling. You have 1,000 cubic feet. So you need to turn over 3,000 cubic feet an hour, which means you got to have something along the lines of 50 cubic feet per minute. Pretty easy to find, actually. And don't make the mistake of like, oh, I'm just going to get this one for the whole house.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way, because rooms, they have walls, they have doors, so
sure.
Smaller ones for several rooms is better than one big one for a general. So anyway, back to the clean air. Clean air is MERV filter, is clean out the air ducts, and an air purification system for your particularly your bedrooms.
Okay.
The clean food, organic, fresh, whole, as much as possible. Use an ozone generator for your food to get rid of the topically applied stuff. The water is huge. There is nothing safe in this world anymore. There's safer, but there's nothing safe.
I agree with you, and I'm sad to agree with you, but that's the conclusion I came to 15 years ago when I started this work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even here, the EPA has not updated its water regulations in decades. There's fewer than a third of the water treatment facilities across the country that even bother to comply, or they'll do, and fewer. I mean, very few ever get challenged or told to, and they temporarily correct, and then they go back to their old ways of doing things. Just in our area, I know we have hexavalent chromium in our water supply. That's the Aaron Brockovich chemical.
Yep.
Okay. Carcinogenic. It's here. EPA doesn't screen for it.
And
people
Not
forget.
required. It's not
People have
required.
seen the movie, but they forget about the fact that it might be in their tap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 1,4-dioxane is another one. You know, and there's so many things that aren't tested for in our water that are in our water now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's your neighbors pharmaceuticals are now in water. Think about this for a second. You take your birth control pill, you take your beta blocker, you take your Librium and Valium and whatever. You metabolize it. Most of it gets excreted in your urine. The urine goes to the water treatment plant to get rid of the solid waste and to kill bacteria before it gets dumped back into our system, usually as surface water. Where do many communities get their water from? The river they just dump their stuff into.
Yeah.
It's like, people, think about this for a
They're
minute.
unable to get rid of these contaminants fully.
Yeah.
So what do we do about it? Obviously, to me, I've stopped drinking tap water almost 100% years ago. That's a good first step. So it means, but it doesn't mean bottled water, does it?
Bottled water does not.
A lot of
it
people-
absolutely fact does not mean bottled
Okay.
water. People say, "Oh, let me drink out of
Yeah.
this pure plastic bottled water."
Exactly.
No,
So what kind of
not
water?
really. And the water may have been perfectly fine when it got put in the bottle at the plant. And usually the plants will take water from a spring or from another city water supply, run it through an RO system, and then put it in a bottle and sell it, which is well and good, except for the fact that that plastic water bottle now goes on to a truck that's not climate controlled, to go to a hot warehouse, to go to a hot distribution center, to go sit in the back room of the store that you buy it from for a while before it sits in the trunk of your car for a week. If there's one thing you can do to accelerate a chemical equation, it's to heat it.
Yeah. Bad news.
Bad news.
Yeah.
So now you've leached these phthalates and the BPA from the plastics into your drinking water. They are both huge hormone disruptors. BPA is the classic obesogen. Okay? You want to have diabetes, drink a lot of plastic. Drink out a lot of plastic water bottles and eat sugar. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a rabbit hole. I don't even want to go there, but BPA is replaced by BPB or some other equally as
Exactly.
hormonally
And
disrupting chemical.
And this is the problem with our system, is the chemical companies do not have to prove safety before they put it on the market.
Yeah.
They only get, the reason BPA got called out is because they'd said, gee, all these sick kids have got these plastic infant bottles that they cook on this, they heat the formula in the bottle on the stove,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They said, oh yes, the BPA, there's a problem. Oh, we got that. We'll just take BPA out, but they use BPS.
UPS.
You have to have a bisphenol in order to make plastics. It ain't going to work otherwise. You got to have something.
Yeah.
So they use BPS, which is a larger molecule that has a longer half-life than BPA, but somehow is magically less toxic.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Sounds fishy. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so no plastic water bottle. I'm with you. So I know that some people tell me you got to go to a spring and have natural water. Is that even a thing anymore?
Well, there was one, I've had one patient since I opened this office that they had a natural flowing spring on their property straight out of the side of the mountain in Tennessee.
Wow.
They tested it, and it was literally, there was nothing in there that could possibly have harmed them. That's one.
Good for that person.
Good for that person,
yeah.
but not practical for the rest of us. So
Yeah.
what do the rest of us do? Again, go to the Deeper Healing Com, download the thing. You need to have a water filter.
Mm-hmm.
There are good ones, there are bad ones. If say, oh, I've got a refrigerator filter. No, refrigerator filter is only going to take care of the cosmetics and the chlorine. Not going to be efficient for everything else. And you can get anything from a gravity-fed one to a table to one that you hook to your faucet above the counter. There's under the counter. There's whole house. In this office, we have a whole house system that I really love. But then also, because any whole house system is also going to have difficulty removing all the fluoride, because it's a slower process, and the volume of water going through that bigger filter just isn't enough time to pull it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I also had an under the counter system put in for whatever water we're drinking here in the
Okay.
office. Okay. So it's really critical. And even if you, and the other thing is, I always tell people, be sure if you don't have a whole house system, be sure you get a filter for your shower head. Do you know why hot showers and hot baths are so relaxing?
The hot water? I'm not sure.
Well, it does have to do with hot water, but the chlorine they use to sanitize the water, when combined with the heat from the hot water tank and the organic matter in the water, create these things called trihalomethanes. 90% of the trihalomethanes that are coming out of your shower head are coming out as chloroform. Chloroform was an anesthetic agent that they quit using because it's toxic to the liver.
My God. Yeah.
So, you know,
So
it's a dangerous world out there, but it doesn't have to be scary.
yeah. So what do you filter out of, what kind of shower filter would be useful? Is it against chlorine? I know there's
Chlorine is the big,
chloramines.
well, the chlorine is the big thing because
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about fluoride in the shower because the fluoride doesn't vaporize. And
Okay.
fluoride, so it's chlorine is the big thing. And chloramine is just another type of chlorine.
Okay.
It does not seem to create as many trihalomethanes, but it has its own set of issues all by itself. But get a good shower filter and don't worry about it.
Got it.
So now we have the clean air, clean food, clean water in your house. And if you're traveling, I always carry a little, I have a pure one. It's plastic, but I don't heat it.
Yeah.
But, for if I stay in a hotel overnight, and it's gravity fed, and it'll give you a quart of clean filtered water, really good. It will get everything except radioactive materials. There's another one. I also carry a Grail. My personal is a Grail, but Berkey makes a handheld one. Pro One makes a pure handheld one that you can just carry with you. And you can take the plastic water, the water out of the plastic bottle, pour it in your
Refilter
filter,
it.
and then
Yeah.
filter it, and you're
There
fine.
you go. Yeah. And there are pictures also. I know that Brita, for example, not to throw that brand under the bus, but it's a popular one. I know it's not very good from what
It's
I
not.
heard.
It's not. I mean, again, it's kind of like the charcoal filter in your refrigerator. Necessary, but not sufficient.
Got it. Because so what are we trying to remove from the water? I know that we have those metal pipes with lead in Montreal, and in fact, we had a warning on the door a few years ago saying there might be lead in your water. So we've identified that within Villeray, where I live, there might be lead. They don't even know, so they have to dig and to look at the entries, but there was no action step.
Yeah.
They didn't even tell me. I don't know, the government's gonna subsidize you buying a filtration device for your family. I had to pay my own money and I did it, but then I had to make sure that the system can remove heavy metals. So that's, you really have to verify. And I guess that brings me to the question, could you test how effective your filter is? Sending it to a lab, would that be useful?
Yeah. There's actually my favorite lab is National Testing Laboratories, and it's watercheck.com.
Okay.
And you can order the kit, and they have anything from well water to city water. Actually, we just bought some property, had a 2-acre pond on it, and I gathered up the water from the pond and sent it off. I'm waiting for the results, because I would love to be able to eat the fish out of there, but I want to make sure I haven't got a bunch of pesticides sitting in the water first.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So you can test the water coming from the tap or after filtration to see how effective it is.
Exactly.
And I've been told, I used to believe that certain types of filters are the best and filter out everything. It turns out, I think the filtration needs to be customized to what is actually in your tap water. Do you agree with that?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, there's pretty much the filtration systems. I'm not a chemist as much as I need to be.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you, but there are different materials that absorb different absorb different toxins better.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in that area. The ones that I like are on our website.
Okay.
The one I really, really like is the one I have here in the office because it is the only one I found that also gets the radioactive materials that are now in our water supply. I found cesium and thallium in most everybody that I test.
Wow.
And you can thank going back to the 50s when we had the nuclear testing in the atmosphere. Then you throw in a 3 Mile Island here and the Chernobyl there and the Fukushima, just for icing on the cake. And then you put thallium in your catalytic converters because it's supposed to work better. So there's just all kinds of new radioactive elements that are now available to us in our drinking water.
Yeah, that's pretty daunting. But again, yeah, I think the message is key. What you talked about, focusing on really let's reduce the total body burden.
Yes.
I guess a question I would have for you just to close this out is a lot of people are focused on detox.
Right.
And you probably have, we could talk about it for hours, but is avoidance the best detox, or are there things that parents should think about when it comes to detoxifying their kids from these exposures?
Well, the first thing, let's do a quick little side thing on the difference between detoxification and depuration.
Okay.
Detoxification is a process that everybody kind of uses in general. It's a term that people seem to understand, but our body doesn't really detoxify. It biotransforms. And it's a 3-step process where you take something that can be held on by the body called lipophilic and turn it into hydrophilic. And that's step 1. Then step 2 is connecting it to a molecule to get it out of the cell. And then step 3 is to get it out of the body. Mm-hmm. Well, oftentimes between step 1 and 2, you can go from a less toxic problem to a more toxic problem.
Got it.
So depuration is means cleansing. And cleansing is really a technically more accurate term, much like the difference between toxins and toxicants.
Oh, okay, I stand corrected.
Okay.
Yeah.
So depuration is the process we want to do. And then you ask, what is the best way to do it? Well, if you had only one thing that you could do, that would be sweat. Okay. Sauna is probably the singularly easiest way to start dumping your total body burden. One of the original studies done in Finland that had, if people they looked at a bunch of men for a lot of years, and those that did a sauna 3 times a week reduced their all-cause mortality by 60%. You did it twice a week, you'd reduce it 40%. You did it once a week, it's like, I may as well go and played pinball or something.
Yeah.
So it's, but sweating is key. If you're already chemically sensitive though, the bottom basic pathophysiologic mechanism with toxins is that it interferes with the microcirculation. So you have trouble getting oxygen to the cells. Well, if you can't get oxygen to the cells, your cells can't do their job appropriately because they need oxygen to generate energy. Well, if you don't generate the energy, you're not going to get the toxins out of the cell, which is why I have a problem with people that say, oh, I'm just going to take the supplement regimen and get all better. Well, supplements can be helpful, but if you don't have the oxygen to go along with it, you've gone from regular fuel to premium fuel, but you haven't done anything about your engine's ability to burn it. So you're just spending more money and not getting any better mileage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying supplements are bad. I use supplements, but you've really got to focus on oxygenation and depuration. Oxygen is the first step. Even if you were to buy if you're really chemically sensitive, buy a home oxygen concentrator, 5 liters per minute, put it on 2 liters with a nasal cannula and wear it all night. And
really?
Just get the oxygen going. Get up in the morning, go get in the sauna. Just help your body start trying to dump that way. If those 2 things, you can do, and you can get, and again, there's saunas on the website, but there's 2. You can get the little, but be careful what sauna you buy. I don't like sauna blankets. They're inexpensive, but you're just laying on them and you're sweating and all those toxins are being absorbed into what you're laying on. Mm-hmm. And so when you heat them up again, they're just going to reabsorb them. So the key with saunas is wipe yourself off while you're in the sauna and take a cool shower immediately when you're done.
Okay.
Right? You do that, you get some oxygen at night, and you'll start feeling better and be better able to utilize some of the supplements and the good food that I hope you're eating and the cleaner air you're breathing and the clean water that you're drinking, and eventually you'll improve your overall health.
Tremendous. Well, I'll mention that I don't know what kind of sauna exposure is safe for kids. I would, consult.
Yeah,
What do you think?
8 years old is kind of a cutoff.
Okay.
Unless the parent is in there with them.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, if the parent's in there with them, you can kind of get by. But the kids have a problem, and particularly if kids are already chemically sensitive or chemically injured, they're going to have their their autonomic nervous system is not going to be able to let them know, hey, I'm getting overheated.
Okay.
And so you'd have a heat stroke in a kid if you leave them unattended in a sauna and they're less than 8.
Got it. But yeah, my colleague Brian was going with, I think, his 4-year-old, but always with the kid.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was, a few minutes, getting them accustomed to this as a health practice. And now the kids go in the sauna together. It's almost, a family practice.
And you don't have to, the key is you don't have to have outrageously high temperatures.
Okay.
You can start getting results at 100 degrees. 110 is good. 125 to 135 seems to be a general consensus as your ultimate goal, but that doesn't mean less is not good. It just
got it. Yeah. And with kids, I think
you start them out with a few minutes, and then just build them up with time, and yeah.
Perfect. And just a small note on physical exercise for kids. Getting them moving, is it also part of, let's say, this oxygen benefit that you were talking about? Just having them move and play?
Well, yes, and actually one of the things that we do here is an exercise-induced altitude contrast exercise. We're using oxygen with exercise in order to improve that. So anything you can do to increase the heart rate will increase turbulent flow. Turbulent flow will exchange the oxygen and the carbon dioxide in the lungs better. Much like if you imagine a mountain stream, mountain streams have far more oxygen in them because the water's tumbling over the rocks and things, as opposed to a farm pond. But I am going to want to see what my oxygen level is in my pond. But, the farm pond is, so get them active. Don't let them be a farm pond. Let them go outside and play and be a mountain stream.
That's perfect. Well, thank you so much for the advice you've given parents today. I think it's going to be of great help. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really hope that you liked this presentation. If you want to take action on what you just heard, you'll find links to everything that was mentioned by our guest speaker right underneath this interview. If you love this summit and want to own the recordings in audio, video, and written form for all of these 2025 interviews, make sure to click the buttons on this page to get the 2025 EMF Pack. This EMF Pack is heavily discounted during the summit launch and for a very limited time. Remember that every purchase supports my work as an independent citizen journalist, as well as the nonprofit partners that are associated with this summit. Thank you for your attention and support, and I'll see you in the next presentation.